Nobody wants to be cold called, not even Medicare beneficiaries. And DME providers that engage in unwanted telephonic sales calls to Medicare patients regarding DME that they offer are sure to land on Medicare and the OIG's naughty list this holiday season. Perfect case in point is the provider example that is on the screen before you, who recently received a revocation notice of their Medicare billing privileges due to allegations that they contacted 6 Medicare beneficiaries regarding DME that they offer purportedly without consent to contact them. Telephonic sales calls to Medicare patients has long irked Medicare and the Office of Inspector General. So much so that over 20 years ago, the Office of Inspector General back in 2003 issued this special fraud alert regarding telemarketing by DME suppliers. In this memorandum over 20 years ago, they emphasized that notwithstanding the clear prohibition from engaging in cold calls, they continue to receive credible information that DME suppliers are using third-party marketing companies to engage in unsolicited calls to Medicare beneficiaries to market DME on their behalf. They emphasize something in here that I often try to reiterate. DME providers cannot do indirectly through a third-party marketing company what they cannot do directly on their own. The Office of Inspector General makes clear in here that a DME provider is responsible for the actions of their subcontractors. If a subcontractor marketing company violates Supplier Standard 11, the DME supplier and the telemarketer are potentially liable for civil, administrative, and even criminal penalties. So it's important that if you're going to use a third-party marketing company to provide these calls on your business's behalf, you know thy subcontractor. The Office of Inspector General has been kind enough to put out some FAQs and some answers regarding some clarification on some finer points regarding compliance with Supplier Standard 11, for which my office oftentimes receives inquiries. We're dropping the link to the FAQs in the comments below, but I wanted to go over some of them with you. For example, if is a supplier that returns a beneficiary's phone call considered an unsolicited contact? No. In that scenario, the beneficiary initiated the contact and is inviting a response from the supplier to make a outbound call in response to the inbound call wouldn't be considered unsolicited contact. How about if a supplier makes a solicited contact with a Medicare beneficiary regarding a covered item? Can the supplier speak with that beneficiary about additional covered items during that contact? The answer to this one is a clear-cut, resounding no. If it's the first time that contact is made by the supplier to the beneficiary, then the supplier is prohibited from attempting to solicit the purchase or sale of additional covered items, since the supplier only had permission to contact the beneficiary regarding a particular covered item. Another great FAQ that they tackle in here, for which we oftentimes receive inquiries in our office, is a supplier that contacts a beneficiary based upon receipt of a physician's order considered an unsolicited contact. Perfect example happens all the time where a beneficiary goes to a doctor's office, they write a prescription for DME, and they send that over to a DME provider that the physician selects. If the DME provider reaches out to the patient in response to that physician order, is this considered a violation of Supplier Standard number 11? The OIG chimes in here. If a physician contacts a supplier on a beneficiary's behalf with the beneficiary's knowledge, and the supplier then contacts the beneficiary to confirm the order, that contact would not be considered unsolicited. They go on to note that the beneficiary only needs to be aware that a supplier will be contacting him or her regarding the prescribed item, recognizing that the exact supplier may not have been identified at the time of consultation between the prescribing physician and the Medicare beneficiary. Telemarketing non-compliance with Supplier Standard number 11 is a slippery slope to non-compliance with other aspects of healthcare marketing, all of which have very serious penalties and ramification, such as the federal anti-kickback statute, for which we see rampant non-compliance in the DME POS space. So if you're going to engage in telemarketing sales activities, whether directly through your business or through a third-party marketing company, ensure that you look before you leap and know what you need to do to comply with DME POS Supplier Standard number 11.